Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Snow. Welcome back as we are embarking on this gut reset program. And today we're going to talk about in this video how to deal with temptations. And so this is a very vital, important part of the program to watch this video, look out for pitfalls, see where, temptations may lie or, where you could go astray on this program. And we're going to talk about how to fix those ahead of time. So let's go ahead and get going. So in this diet, you're going to be on a fairly restrictive diet for about 30 days. So temptations are going to come in. So many people experience cravings or have to be around their family members or friends who are still consuming the delicious standard American diet with all the inflammatory foods that you're familiar with. So in this lesson, we'll talk about how to anticipate, prevent, and be prepared for it, and what to do when it comes up. So there will be both practical and mindset and tips included. And so we just want you to know, by having the discipline and the tools that we're going to talk about today to beat the temptations, you will be successful on this gut reset program. So number one, remember it's temporary. So the number one tip is to remember that it's temporary with the goal of building your health. So you're not giving up some of your favorite foods for life. Eventually you will be able to bring them back in and try them again to see their effects on your body. Many of our patients also find that their palates change after the gut reset. So especially because their gut microbiome is changing so much so they no longer find unhealthy foods enjoyable. And so like we talked about on the science video, the science behind the gut reset program, that many of our patients who before would drink a Dr. Pepper and just, crave them all day, they go through this 30-day gut reset program. And then, just shortly after finishing, they may have like a swig of a soda like Dr. Pepper, and they're just like, oh, like it tastes artificial, it tastes fake. It's because your body has evolved, your microbiome has evolved in just those 30 short days. And so you may find some of these foods as you reintroduce them or just try them again because they're there and we finish with the program. But we just find this interesting. And so we hope that you have the same outcome, that when maybe you try to pick up something that's unhealthy for your body at the end of this program and you put it in your mouth, that you don't no longer have the affinity for it. So that's what our hope is for you. Number two, remember your why. This is so important. So tip number two is to remember your big why. And this is why we make you do your goal setting exercise. So, but we want to make sure that you know why you're doing this program. It's bigger than just maybe my stomach hurts or my joints ache. The bigger thing may be, mending a family relationship. It may be being a better boss or being a better employee, and maybe being a better mom. And so if you know what your why is ahead of time, you are going to have a little bit better willpower. So your reasons for this are bigger than the pleasure of enjoying another donut. And then number three is to be prepared. So tip number three, to be very well prepared, because it's far easier to resist temptations when you're not starving. So many people lose a lot of weight on the gut reset. Again, this is not a weight loss diet. Some people don't lose any weight, but just remember, this is about healing your gut. And so, you need to consume enough calories. Use the recipe guide that we're providing you, use the shopping list we're providing you, make sure that, you're eating the right foods. It's not about being stressed out with, how many calories you're consuming and, counting carbohydrates. Now, that's okay if you're used to doing a ketogenic diet and it's not stressful, you understand how to do it, and you can totally line up a ketogenic diet with this gut reset program because there's a lot of similar underlying traits and values to the ketogenic diet. However, we don't want this to be stressful. Remember, this gut reset program is about dialing the stress down so that we can really get our guts realigned. So The key here is to always have plenty of gut reset compliant foods around. Ideally, allocate your time to prepare your food so that you don't have to make decisions and resist temptations when you're hungry. Don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. Make sure you eat before you go. We even tell some of our patients, eat the right foods before you go to a restaurant with your friends. I know that sounds crazy, but it helps you to not get in a predicament where you feel like, oh goodness, I'll just go ahead and cheat. And then, it's okay if that occurs at one point during the program. But if you're constantly doing this every day, like, oh goodness, I didn't think ahead and I'm with my friends and they're all eating, chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant. If you eat before you go and then just go there and enjoy, a sparkling water while you're enjoying their company, that's fabulous. But again, it's about thinking ahead. So you should have a plan A, B, and C. So plan A, have your food ready and fill up on it. Eat the foods that are gut reset compliant. But plan B, have extra shelf stable or frozen leftovers available for when you run out. So we always want to have a backup plan. And then plan C, look ahead, go online and look at menus at your local restaurants. Know the foods that you can eat that are going to be compliant and not get you in trouble. We want you to be successful. We want you to have a great outcome to this gut reset program. Also look up stores and food delivery services that can deliver you something to eat, again, that follows the guidelines and won't get you in trouble. Let's see. And let's talk about food preparation patterns. So there are some people that they do really well with having a food prep day. So it might be on Sundays. They go to the grocery store, they come home, they chop vegetables, they look at all the recipes for the week before they go to the grocery store. So they have their list. You can print the list that we provide you, the shopping list. You can even print the avoid list so you know what not to get at the grocery store. But you can print your food shopping guide and scratch out the things you don't need and use it as a grocery list. So if you're going to be preparing weekly, you definitely can set aside that grocery store hour or two to do a little investigation. Some of these items are new, and so it may not be down a familiar aisle or section of the store. And so you might need a little extra time at the grocery store. So just make sure you're allocating enough time to shop for the foods, prepare for the foods. And so that may be once a week, maybe a few times a week. Maybe budget wise, it's better for you to shop twice a week than once a week. But whatever works for you so that you are successful. And then some people, they go to the grocery store once or twice a week and they just want to prep their food as they make the recipe. Maybe they're going to be home for most of the 30 days. And so they don't have to plan ahead, for having their foods while at work. So everyone, again, different lifestyles, but we can all make this successful by making sure we have a game plan. And then number 4, set up your environment for success. So make sure that you have plenty of compliant groceries around. We want to make sure that we remove junk food and non-compliant groceries from your home, work, or car. And so I'll show you a little trick for this because I've had family members who have struggled with this, with having a spouse who just eats the way he wants to eat or the way she wants to eat, and that's completely fine. But they actually separate their pantry. And so I have a family member who has had her husband's junk foods in a cooler in the far corner of the dining room. And you know what? It works for them. So she's not walking in the pantry and being tempted by some of these snacks. He buys them, puts them straight into this container. Everybody's happy. She's able to eat a certain way and he's able to eat a certain way, and there's no disruption to their household. It's really hard when you have a family member who's not supporting you to be successful. If they're, putting their junk foods in front of you or eating them in front of you and just, maybe not handling it the right way. It's so nice when you have a supportive family member. So maybe just sit down and have a talk with them before you get started. Like, hey, I want to be successful with this. You want me to be healthier. We want our relationship better. The health issues that I'm dealing with do, cause an issue in the home. And so if you speak about it ahead of time, chances are you can work out a plan where, they can stash their their foods that are not conducive to your gut reset program in another location. And then the same thing with kiddos. I know that's hard if you're preparing the foods for your kids, or buying the little snacky foods for your kids that aren't on your diet. But hey, this might be a great time for you to introduce some of these healthier items. I don't think you have to come down hard on your kids while you're trying to become healthier, but just introduce things, carrots and we have a vegan ranch dressing that we have that's compliant with the gut reset program. And so, having something like this and just showing them, hey, this is something different that mom's trying or dad's trying, and maybe they would enjoy it. And then the more that you would make some of the items on your recipe guide and letting them try it, hey, you may open up a door for them to also improve their health. So, and then number 5, again, we just talked about this, but communicating with the people you spend time with. So maybe family that you live and share food with, and just telling them, hey, I need some help. I need you to support me on this. Tell your colleagues you're on a medical diet and your doctor ordered it. And best case scenario, your family will want to join you. Your kiddos may actually enjoy some of the foods that you're preparing. And, it's a fun time to educate kids. They're always learning and they enjoy learning. And maybe you just haven't sat down and taught them the importance of food. And so the way that we've done it with our son is we just put it in his value list, like his, he's 12 years old, and part of his values is, the way his hair looks and, the way he dresses and style. And so we just say, hey, it's important for you to have clear skin and nice hair. That comes from the foods that you eat. When he was younger, he wanted to be the Incredible Hulk. And so we would trick him and say that if he ate enough broccoli, he might have a little tinge of green in his skin. So working with kids and finding what's fun and finding what's in their value list may help them to eat healthier and incorporate some of these healthier foods into their diet. Second best case scenario, though, is they continue to eat their typical diet, but at least they accommodate, your choices and help support you on this. Worst case scenario is they feel threatened and actively try to sabotage you. So again, this is probably because of not sitting down and talking with these family members ahead of time, and, talking to them in a way that's diplomatic, and, not talking to them where, you better help me on this diet or else, that's probably not the way that, is best going to get them to support you as you work through this program. And number 6, social situations and festivities. So ideally, doing the gut reset away from major holidays and food-related celebrations, such as Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, wedding season, in the spring. So baby showers. It's really hard when you're around family members and, maybe your Aunt Carol just makes this fabulous fried chicken, or, maybe your uncle barbecues, these big pork roasts. So if you have an event coming up, maybe schedule where you could do this 30 days where it won't overlap with, a major holiday or a major family event that's going on. And then if you have to attend a social event, bring the food you can eat, or again, eat ahead of time. So if you're going out to hang out with friends at a restaurant, it's okay if you eat before you go. And, if they want to pick on you, that's okay. Again, it's not worth, you allowing your body to be in the, state that it's in if you're dealing with these chronic illnesses or, chronic health issues. No food tastes as good as feeling good or feeling healthy does. So it's always my quote that I share with others, and just to encourage others, to work around, social events so that, you can still maintain what you're doing with a program such as the Gut Reset program. Number 7, so a plan of attack when cravings hit. So this, tip number 7 is to have a plan of attack when your cravings hit. First, if you're hungry, eat compliant foods to eliminate the hunger. Number 2, drink water and make sure you're well hydrated. 3, breathe into your belly and sit with the craving. So sometimes it's just, wait it out. Your body will eventually kind of calm down if you feel a little anxiety coming about when, maybe a certain meal time that you used to eat at, or maybe your family's in the other room, eating their supper, and maybe, you're not eating that or you're fasting during that time period. Just wait it out. So you don't have to immediately act on it, and eventually it will pass. Lastly, you want to distract yourself. So if it's going for a walk or reading your daily affirmations or your daily motivation sheet that we've provided as a download for you, whatever it is, it might just be going to sit down in the late evening sun, putting your bare feet on the ground, do a little bit of grounding. So find what works for you so that you have a game plan when those cravings hit. But number 5, one of my favorites is to use kava liquid. So we use a company called Herb Farm. It's HERBPHARM. And they have a liquid kava you can get in either a 1 or 4 ounce bottle, and you can find it online. We sell it in our office for patients, but it will help lower anxiety about eating. It works fabulous. So just a couple of drops whenever you're feeling those cravings hit and there's a little anxiety involved with that. Amazing. It works really good. And then number 8, stabilizing your blood sugar. So a lot of times sugar cravings come from major blood sugar drops. So you want to proactively stabilize your blood sugar. The easiest way to do this is to eat protein and fiber at every mealtime. And so this just brings about more satiation. And so this will help avoid those drops in blood sugar. If you're prone to carb cravings or frequently feel low energy throughout the day, try stabilizing your blood sugar by eating some protein or fiber like every 2 to 3 hours. Even if you're not hungry, just to get your body in that routine, or to kind of help repair that hormone problem that we're having with the drop in blood sugar. Sometimes it's just retraining your body. For some people, there are foods that tend to cause a blood sugar crash. And this could even be compliant foods. So we talked about that in the previous video. It may be a super healthy food, but maybe, it's a food that's an intolerance. And so that's usually the symptoms that we see with a patient is they'll have just a dropout, fall out of energy if they're eating it within a couple hours. And so again, that helps us identify what these problematic foods are. And so if we're writing in the food journal every day, it'll help us to identify, even if it's a food on the compliant food list. So number 9, identify your triggers. So we were just talking about this. So some people have foods, emotional or situational triggers that tend to cause mindless or uncontrollable eating. So a lot of it's a habitual thing. So maybe it's the end of a work day, or, maybe they were around a certain person in their life that tends to, trigger emotions, maybe a family member or a friend. There's a lot of situational triggers, might be driving by a certain location that maybe, there was a tragic event that occurred. So, some people have to just sit down and examine, what those triggers are that can contribute to a craving, or, what's causing you just to start eating, whatever's in sight. So this could be chocolate or ice cream. It could be sadness or stress. It could be sleep deprivation. So again, making sure that during this gut reset program that we are definitely putting sleep as a priority. So we're getting, going to sleep around 9, 10 o'clock, 11 at the very latest, and, sleeping all the way through, make, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, but you're having a consistent quality amount of sleep. We're blacking out our whole room. There's no light even coming from an alarm clock that's disrupting, maybe having some white noise, whatever it takes. Even our product line we talked about, the Magnesium Power that we have on our website, excellent at helping to have a consistent sleep pattern by getting that extra magnesium in. So know what your triggers are. Be prepared with a plan ahead of time to avoid these triggers. And for example, move your body instead of eating when you feel emotions coming on. So just making a new habit. If your habit was, grabbing a bag of potato chips when you got home from work, go out for a walk when you get home from work and just set up that new pattern, that new habit that you're more likely to just do every day. You may take you a week to get that pattern going, but after that, it's just your new way of handling when you get home from work, handling some of the stress you've endured. All right, number 10, managing your mindset. So negative mindsets and beliefs about yourself, your appearance, and your progress will make it much harder to succeed with the gut reset or any health improvement efforts. It also makes people more likely to engage in emotional eating and self-sabotage. So also studies show that mindset strongly affects your health. So it starts with recognizing that you are not your thoughts and your thoughts aren't necessarily reality. Instead, you want to focus on the wins and be compassionate with yourself. So it's already a win that you're doing the gut reset program and thinking all about the ways to overcome your temptation. So be compassionate with yourself and give yourself grace. Use positive mindset language. So this is super important. We teach this to our patients all the time. You have to decree what you want to have in your life. And so if you have a negative language that's just on repeat in your brain and you're, hey, I hate what my body looks like, or, I'm really struggling, or, I'm really want to go eat some chocolate right now. So we have to change that video reel or that audio feed in our head and create the positive mindset language. So an example, I get to enjoy great food and great health instead of I'm missing out on my favorite foods. I celebrate my body for what it has accomplished instead of I'm fat, ugly, and undeserving. Many of us have multiple kids, and, there's some, little bit of battle scars from that, and I had to have an emergency C-section with my last child. And again, I've had completely natural childbirth and with my first two. And so to go through that is devastating for a woman. And then, you have a little bit of a scar that you see every day, but you have to put that into context and you have to make sure that you're playing the correct audio in your mind. I celebrate my body for what it has accomplished. I have 2 beautiful children or 3 beautiful children. And you need to be speaking that into your life. I've successfully completed 7 days of the program and nourished my body well instead of I'm, still feeling the symptoms. This must not be working. Speak what you want to hear. In the Bible, it says to call things that are not as though they are. And so that is speaking what you want to have happen instead of just sitting back and, complaining about what's not happening. And maybe what happened and what can I learn from this instead of I'm a terrible person for making this mistake. We're all going to be successful on this program. It just takes you having the right mindset and making sure that you are decreeing, that this is a positive experience. You're going to be successful. And even if you make a mistake, you get right back up, dust off, your clothes and walk forward and, make better decisions from that point. So if you do fall off the wagon, so mistakes certainly do happen. You're not the only one who falls off the wagon. It does not make you a bad person and it's not all doom and gloom. The key is to know how to manage it. So mistakes happen. So you may have an unintentional small amounts of a food that's on the avoid list. So maybe a cross-contamination in a restaurant. So they may put, say on your salad, you may get a few crumbs of croutons. And so you pull them off of your salad, then maybe there's just a little bit of the dust still there. Don't stress about it. Do the best you can. If they will take the salad back and bring you another one, that's the best case. That's what we tell people. But the intentional or uncontrollable eating, you may have a day where, you just are super stressed out and, you have a binge where you eat the wrong foods. Don't quit the program. Don't just throw it, hey, I'm not even going to finish. I'm frustrated. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Just know, hey, I made a mistake. Moving forward, I got this. Go back and watch this video again. Look at all the ways that you can get sidetracked or, pitfalls, and re-examine those and look, how can I avoid falling off in the future by making sure, I do this, this, and this. So watch the video again, maybe watch it 3 times, whatever it takes to be successful. I know you can do it. And, we tell people to give yourself grace. Falling off the wagon is usually not a life and death situation. It doesn't make you a terrible person. So don't beat yourself up. Don't use language like you've cheated. I ruined it, missed my chance, never going to be successful at this. No, be compassionate with yourself. Also, don't use the mindset of, since I've cheated, I might as well just go hog wild. So, you can have an unintentional, or just a little cheat, and it doesn't mean you've had a major setback in the program. You've made progress up to that point. So just keep going. Don't let that drag you down where you stop the program. And then get back to a clean slate. So write down what you had, write it on that daily food journal. And that's why we provide that. We want you to see, like, hey, I see, what that food that I ate the day before and how I'm feeling today. Or, hey, this is where, I was when I, ate this and it made me sidetrack. So if you can write this down and know, what threw you off, this is part of, the education process of seeing maybe where we've been the last couple of years. If there's maybe an event or group of people or certain foods that have derailed you, but we can see, what comes up with that, and then, how we can fix it. But also, seeing what symptoms come up. And that, again, is an educational process. So you may need to extend your elimination diet period so that you have at least 21 consecutive days without the gut irritants. So, if you've had a certain time period where you cheated, maybe it was an entire day, maybe you had a cruise or a vacation planned, or just kind of fell that way in the middle of your 30 days. You may want to delay your reintroduction period, so you at least have those 21 consecutive days with the foods that are on the avoid list that have the gut irritants, so that you really can have that 21 days so that your gut can get to the place where it needs to be before we start introducing other foods. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned lots of good ways that we can prevent having different things arise during the 30-day gut reset program that would derail us. Hope you learned some really good tips on what you can do around social events or around going grocery shopping. We want you guys to be successful. We know that this gut reset program is life-changing. You are going to feel like a different person once you finish this program. So enjoyed this video and sharing this stuff with you. If you want to watch this video again, I think that it would really reinforce some of the concepts that we talked about. And I'm Dr. Katie Snow, helping you to transform your health naturally. See you next time. Bye-bye.